Hi everyone, welcome to today's video. My name is Doctorate, and today we're going to be doing a review on a holistic diet. So we've talked a lot about different types of diets, and some of the most popular ones I get asked for are about holistic. And so I think anytime you are reviewing or considering a brand that's holistic, the first thing that comes to your mind is absolutely, it must be good. It's holistic. That word instills such warm and fuzzy feelings in our heart. But it's important to realize that that word holistic is coming from pet food marketers. And even though the food may be an awesome food, it's always important to take a step back and kind of consider what the word holistic means as it pertains to pet food and the labeling of pet food. So if you've been frequenting this channel, you know that word has virtually no meaning legally in pet food. Anybody can say that about any pet food, and it doesn't mean anything. There is no definition to that term. There's no well-established, defined definition to that term. And so today we're going to be doing a holistic pet food. We're going to be talking about all those things, and we're going to see how it stacks up to the pet food scoring system, because that's really what's going to tell us if the food is nutritious or not. All those other things are ancillary. We want to know what the nutrition of the food is, and that's what we're going to be doing today. If you're new, welcome. My name is Dr. Ray. I'm a small animal general practitioner. I entertain your questions, and I do the best I can to try to pull out and show you guys some of the marketing things that tend to confuse a lot of people and are a lot of the resounding questions people have. So today we're going to jump right into it. We're going to be doing a pet food called Halo Holistic. I emailed the company, I got some information, and we're going to be going over that today. All right, so here we are at halopets.com. I've looked around. You can get this food, as it says there on the top, from Chewy, Amazon. I saw it offered at Kroger, and so very easily accessible. So I'm sure that's why a lot of you have asked me about this product. I emailed the company and I asked them specifically about a few of their diets. They did get back to me and were very receptive. So that's always important to me in a company, that they are open and forthcoming and able to answer questions. We're going to be doing the holistic cage-free chicken and brown rice adult dry food recipe. We're going to be doing the Halo Holistic Healthy Grains Wild Caught Salmon and Whitefish Adult Recipe. And those are the two that they sent me information on. So it's going to be a double review today. The other thing that I did was I emailed them to clarify, and I urge you guys all to do this, what the term holistic means to them. Because again, we just talked about it. It can mean different things to different companies. And so I wanted to know specifically, why is it you're calling your food holistic? I want to know your definition of holistic. And so we're going to be doing that today as well. As you can see, they definitely have a lot of different options here. They've got some freeze-dry raw options. You guys know that, due to my public health oath, I really can't recommend or review raw diets. There's just too much public health risks there, and the benefits are not, statistically, the benefits are not there to justify me breaking that oath. So I don't do that. So you will have to look on those on your own if that's something that you are interested in. They do have some vegan, plant-based recipes. They've got, of course, their healthy wild grain recipes. And they do have some interesting call outs as far as sustainability and cage-free and things like that. Again, don't have any bearing on the nutrition of the food, but there are some people that is very important, and there is also some marketing things in that as well. And so I might do a dedicated video on what exactly those terms means and those certifications mean, because they may mean something different than what you think they do. But today we're just going to stick with the nutrition of the food. We're going to be using the pet food scoring system. If you are not familiar with that, I do have a video. I urge you to check that out so you understand what we're talking about here. Let's go ahead and first let's read what Halo explained to me their definition of holistic is. And so I emailed them quite a ways back, and I was very upfront, and I said, hey, I know holistic really doesn't have any meaning. I would be happy to know what you guys feel that holistic means as it pertains to your brand. And so this was their response. So this comes from Mike, the happiness advisor. So Mike says, thank you for bringing up an important point about the term holistic in pet food. We appreciate your interest in understanding what sets our food apart. To us, holistic means using high-quality natural ingredients that support overall pet health and well-being. Our recipes are carefully crafted to provide a balanced and nutritious diet that considers the whole pet, not just their immediate dietary needs. And so I do think that that is kind of an interesting concept. You know, food, we feed for nutrition. The nutrition that's in the food, if it's a properly formulated, properly put together, that is obviously going to be nutritious for the whole pet. I don't know what they mean about not just their immediate dietary needs. I'm not sure. I think they're saying that they add things in there and they try to do things like, you know, maybe glucosamines and things like that are kind of like extra money in the bank for later, and so they're trying to do things with the diet that aren't just good for now, you know, sustainability, sustaining life at the present, but also like longevity. And so I thought that was a good answer. But let's see. I mean, you can talk the talk, but do you walk the walk? And that's what we're going to find out today. I have not actually looked at this food to see how it scores. I reserve that to do with you guys, so I am just as shocked or interested at the end as you are. I don't want to go into this with any preconceived notions about any brand. I want to go just based on the numbers. Sometimes I'm surprised, sometimes I'm not surprised. And I also want to show you how I work through it and how you should work through it. So it does me no good and does you no good for me just to tell you, hey, feed this, don't feed this, because I don't know you particularly. I get questions a lot of comments from you guys, and I appreciate the comments because it really does help you grow out, you know, in the algorithm and things like that. But I can't answer your question as to what is best, because what is best in general is a big fallacy, and I think that's where a lot of these other influencers and things go awry, and how, you know, I feel they're being a little bit disingenuous, because I can't tell you over the internet sitting here, you know, in my house, what's best for you specifically. I don't know your pet specifically. I've not physically examined them. I've not talked to you. I've not heard about your concerns. Not just your dietary concerns, but maybe your monetary concerns or your shipping concerns. A lot of people tell me I wanted to feed XYZ diet, but I can't get it. I can't get it shipped here. I take all that into consideration when I consider and make a recommendation to my personal patients as to what is best for them. So I give you guys the tools, and I want you to take those tools, and I want you to make decisions, informed decisions, and maybe take this information back to your veterinarian to help have that conversation. But I truly can't, and I don't try to advise you on what's best, because there's no way that I can do that. And it would be inappropriate, and it would actually be a disservice to you and your pet for me to do that. And so that's why I never answer that question. And I want you guys to have the tools to do that. So let's pop over and pick those bags that we talked about. Here it is right here. Looks like we've got a doodle on the package. Let's click on it. It does retail for $19.99 to $79.99 on their website. You can get it a bunch of different places, so I'm not sure if the price will vary. Obviously, there's different size bags, so you would, you know, pick price rise is probably going to change based on the bag size. Here are some of the call-outs that I talked, and I think I'm going to do a dedicated video on. Right here, this animal welfare certified. This is actually, and the website goes into it, and you can definitely look into it more. I was actually, probably will use their website when I do this video. But that has a very specific meaning, and I think you would be surprised what that animal welfare certified actually means in that term that they put right there, cage-free, because I think it, actually, I know it means something that a lot of people don't realize. So maybe we'll just do a quick little hiatus here. So if you deviate right over here where it talks about how it's responsibly sourced, and you click on that, it does take you to a little bit of an information session here on how it pertains to their diet, in the scoring system, and their participation in the Global Animal Partnership. I think that it is great that they participate in this program. It is going to direct you down to the Global Animal Partnership website. And so what I did when I was looking, you know, through this is, what does it mean to get animal welfare certified? Like, what does that actually mean? And this website has a really, really, really good overview of what that means. So this is a chicken-based recipe, and that's what they're saying. Chicken, cage-free chicken and brown rice. And so what you want to do is you want to scroll down, and you want to click the species that you are the meat source of the diet. And so you can click here on chickens, and you see there are very different certifications that you have. You have to pick the one that makes sense with the sticker that's on the bag. So here you can see that it is the yellow bag, and the yellow bag is saying certified enriched environment. And so it's the standards here that they are meeting. So they do not have to have outdoor access. That is not required. There are some minimal space requirements. There is additional enrichment type activities they have to have, and those are outlined in the guidelines. They have to have 6 hours of darkness. They can't be on light all the time to help increase production. They have to have natural light in the bars, and they do have a 6-hour maximum transport time if they're transporting the animals, I guess, to the processing facility or anything like that. But what I just want to touch base on is right here. This is a certified cage-free chicken recipe, and so the chicken is certified cage-free, but you can see here that they are not required to have outdoor access. So what does that mean? In your mind, you may be thinking that these animals are cage-free and they're wandering around a beautiful pasture with waterfalls and butterflies and lush green grass. But in reality, what it probably means is it's a large barn, and those animals aren't in cages, but they are in there, and they are very densely populated. I did look in the certification process, and it shows you how much space those birds need to have, and those birds essentially are cheek to cheek. And so I'm not saying that participation in this program is bad. I think it's great. It's a way to keep places accountable and for you as a consumer to know what is going on. I'm not saying that Halo is bad for doing this. I just want you to be aware that when you see these animal certified stickers, be careful how much emphasis you put on that, and if you put more emphasis on that than you do on nutrition. Because this right here, it's on there and it's saying cage free, and yes, that is true. But it may not be the cush lifestyle that you are envisioning in your head. That's marketing. That's what marketing is doing, and that is what marketing is meant to do. The marketing team is doing their job. What we want to make sure is that the nutrition team is doing their job. That's what we are about on this channel. And so we're going to use a pet food scoring system, and we're going to evaluate it for the parameters. So the first thing that we want to look for is the AAFCO statement. Always like to start there because it gives us a lot of information, and some people choose to stop after looking at the AAFCO statement because you can glean so much information from that. That's the nutritional adequacy statement. It is the legal definition of what is in the bag. They cannot marketing manipulate that, okay? It has to be for realsies. And so we got to find it, and it is really hard to find in some of these companies. It isn't something that they put a lot of real estate or a lot of emphasis on because they can't lie, right? Okay, so we're going to scroll down right here past the feeding guide. We are going to be using the feeding guide here in a minute to see if they get any points there, but let's focus on the AAFCO statement. So the Halo Holistic Cage-Free Chicken and Brown Rice recipe is formulated. They did not do feeding trials. They did not check to see if, the diet performed kind of the way that they wanted it to. Essentially, your pet is kind of the test, right? So they didn't do that in advance before packaging it and putting it on the market. So keep that in mind. They do lose a point for that. We'd like to see a feeding trial to meet the nutritional levels established by AAFCO for maintenance. So this was specifically formulated for adults in mind. And so they are going to get 1 point here for the AAFCO statement. Now let's go over here and calculate the feeding guide. So 1.5 cups for a 20-pound dog. We're shooting for somewhere between 363 and 538. That is the resting energy requirement, appropriate caloric amount that the pet should be fed. And so let's see how much calories there are per cup if we're going to be feeding 1.5 cups. So it is 433 kcal per cup. So 1.5 cups is going to put us at 649, which is quite a bit over. I usually will give them a 10%. Yeah, it's 12%. So they're not going to get a point there. They are suggesting that we overfeed a pet. I don't like that for 2 reasons. 1, it could be the old wives' deal that they're just trying to sell you more food. 2 could be that they just don't follow the current data or do the appropriate calculations. Pet obesity is a huge problem, okay? If we're talking about holistic and wellness of the whole pet and money that we're putting in the bank now for later, controlling obesity is huge. It is huge. Dogs that are obese live on average, and they've done studies. They did Hucanuba studies. They've done, ProPlan has done complete lifetime studies from the entire life of an animal, and they have shown that dogs that are ideal weight live 2 years longer than other dogs. And so it is outrageously important, especially if we're talking about holistic and the whole animal in the future. Managing weight, super important. So they are going to lose the point there. So we're up to 1 point. We're up to 1 point going through 2 of the factors already. Next thing that we're going to be looking at is the ingredient list. We've talked about this before. Ingredient list is very heavily manipulated. It used to mean something back in the day. It used to mean something back when they had the first 5 ingredients, and it used to mean something where they came up with this salt rule. But you know, just like we all learned to play the game, right? You know, how we all have the way that we play Monopoly, and we've learned our tricks, and we've learned how to do this, and we've learned how to do that. Pet food companies have learned how to do that with the ingredient list. They know that that's ingrained in people, and they've taken that and they have manipulated it to mean what they want it to mean. So we don't put a whole lot of emphasis on that because it is manipulated, and I'll show you here in a minute how that is happening. What we're basically looking for is it grain-free, because we don't want to get into that, you know, any of that business or any of that risk that has to do with heart disease. Once the cardiologists have lifted that recommendation for avoiding grain-free, you know, we will revamp the system, and we'll add all the points back in for these guys that made grain-free diets. But as of right now, January 7th, 2025, cardiologists are still saying please avoid that. And so, you know, I divert to the people that have more letters behind their name than me. And, you know, that's the way it is. So they do get a point because it is not grain-free, and they also get a point that is not raw. We talked about that earlier, why we are not going to be promoting that or giving points for that on this channel. But let's take a closer look here just so that we can illustrate a couple things. The first ingredient is deboned chicken. And that sounds wonderful because you're thinking this beautiful, juice, succulent chicken. But what makes chicken beautiful and moist and succulent? That's water. And so when you have a water-heavy, dense ingredient, it shoots to the front of the ingredient list. But then that ingredient is cooked and essentially dehydrated, and all that moisture comes out, and you're left with a fraction of what it was. And so if they were required to list those ingredients after they were processed, you know, fully in the diet, this ingredient list would look completely different. It would look completely different, but it's not. And so they've used that to their advantage. So even though deboned chicken is at the very, very, very front of the ingredient list, it probably isn't the ingredient that is providing, you know, the bulk of the nutrients. And if you go down the list a little bit further, now brown rice, that's, you know, that's dried, so there probably is a lot of brown rice in there. Barley, same thing, that's most likely dried. That is also going to be a lot of the ingredients. And then you have pork there. And so even though the recipe says it is a cage-free chicken recipe, it also has pork in it. So then that leads to other questions. You know, is the pork humanely raised? You know, does that certification affect the pork, or does it only affect the chicken? You know, and so we start going down this kind of a rabbit hole there. So it'd be very, very, very important to look at this ingredient list in very limited quantities, and just keep in mind that what it used to be and the information we used to be able to glean off the ingredient list probably 10 years ago is not the same now. So don't use old techniques because times have changed. And so that's all I'm going to say about that. They do get the 2 points there, which is going to bring us up to 3. And then we're going to get into the guaranteed analysis, which is everybody's favorite, right? Everybody loves to debate the guaranteed analysis. Actually, people probably love to debate the ingredient list more, but it's just really not the time and effort to do that. If the food is not nutritionally balanced, it doesn't matter what is in the ingredients. The ingredients could be, you know, filet mignon and tears from the gods, and it doesn't matter if it's still excess in protein, calcium, and phosphorus. There is no amount of special ingredients that is going to change the biological nature of this food, okay? So this is, in my opinion, the nutrient analysis, probably the most important aspect of everything. And so we are not actually, because it is so important, going to be using this as it is listed here. We had to email the company, and I've done that for you. Because as you can see, we've got minimums and maximums. And so they're not giving us absolutes. They're giving themselves way too much wiggle room. And I get that question a lot. Well, I looked on the package and then I looked on the website and the numbers are different. That's because if they are including the moisture content in the food, all that moisture in the deboned chicken that is no longer there, it's going to skew these results. And why is that? It's just the way they label. It's just the labeling, legal labeling requirements, okay? And so what we did is we emailed the company and we asked for dry matter basis. That terminology is very important for you, and I want you guys to remember that. Dry matter basis. That is not going to be listed on the package. You do need to either do some calculations, or even better, email the company and ask for the typical analysis. And that's what I did. So let me show you an example of an email that a response that you may get if you ask for a dry matter basis analysis on a pet food. So I just emailed the Halo support and through their website, and so they provided the nutritional information that I needed. And you can see here, dry matter, nutrient names unit, as fed, DM basis. So that's what we're looking for. And now these numbers are going to be very different than the numbers that they provided on the back. So right here, first one, protein, 28% on the low end, 30.27 on the high end. That is nowhere near the 27 that's listed on the back, okay? So don't use the bag, email the company, get the information straight from the horse's mouth, so to speak. So let's go through the nutrient analysis and see where it stacks up according to the optimal nutrition as provided in Small Animal Clinical Nutrition. The link to that textbook is below. If you would like to see where these charts are coming from, feel free to click that. It is a free full text link on that, and I think that you may find all the information that you are curious about in that textbook. All right, so protein at 30.27 is going to be slightly in excess of what we want. It is not completely out of range, but we did make a rule way in the beginning of the pet food scoring system that if it was a 100th off, we weren't going to deduct a point, but if it's a 10th off, we were, because some of the nutrients, 10ths off are a big deal. Maybe not on the macros like protein, not so much, but we did set that rule, and so I do want to keep things consistent. And so unfortunately, we're not going to be able to give them a point for that because it is 0.2 in excess. But at the end, in the spirit of holisticness, as we are evaluating this food on totality, that 0.2 off may not be a big deal. At the end, it may not be a deal breaker. But they do lose a point there. So we're stuck right now still at the 3 points. All right, let's get down to the fat. The fat we want between 10 and 20, we are at 18.29, so we're going to get a point there, bringing us up to 4. Fiber at 3.23, between 3.23 and 3.49. It just needs to be less than 5, and so we're good there. So now we are at then we get into the minerals, which is the place where I'm usually most interested in seeing, because the food can do this right. I'm pretty happy, and I can give them a pass on pretty much everything else. Well, almost everything else, but you get what I'm saying. Calcium is going to be between 0.48 and 0.52, which is absolutely amazing. We very rarely see diets that are close to that 0.5 range on the calcium, so they get a point there. And the phosphorus is going to be high end at 0.52 as well. And so the minerals on this diet are actually quite low, which I am super impressed with. So that's going to bring it up to a 6-7. And so let's talk about everything that we learned today, because there are some pretty amazing things I think about this diet. So the shortcomings on this diet with the protein were only 0.2 off. Thinking about everything else, the fact that everything else in the nutrient parameters was spot on and these minerals are really low, that makes me really happy. And I might be able to look the other way on that. It's not grain-free and not raw, and to me, those are big pluses. So I'm absolutely happy about that. It was formulated. You know what? I'm not so mad about that because everything else was really on, spot on. This is obviously food is sold at some big box stores, sold through Chewy. And so a lot of dogs have been eating this. I feel like if there were some issues, we would know by now. I like companies to invest that money into research and not necessarily invest it into marketing, but to each his own. I understand it is a business model, and so I'm not too upset about that either. Feeding guide. So I like them to get the feeding guide correct because of all the things that we discussed. Obesity, I don't like that. That is a long-term health problem, and so on that. But all in all, this is a wonderful option. And I'm absolutely interested now, after seeing those minerals, how would this actually stack up for a senior pet? So as your dog transitions from 3, 4, 5 years old and starts to cross that threshold into 6, 7, 8, is this something you could even potentially keep your senior dog on? So let's look at that really quick. We know we went into the guaranteed analysis with a 3. And so let's see how it's going to stack up for a senior. Now we know that protein is going to be way too high for a senior because it was too high for an adult. So it is going to lose the point there. But it's still going to get the points for the calcium and the phosphorus. So if you have a senior pet that really struggles with kidney disease, or maybe even, we'd like the protein to be a little bit lower for kidney disease, but certainly if they have an issue with calcium and phosphorus, maybe they have a condition where that really needs to be regulated, this is this is pretty good for that. So that would bring it up to a 3, 4, 5. The fiber, they are still going to get a point, so that's a 6. And I believe the fat is slightly over what we would want for a senior by just a little tiny bit because it was 16. But you know what? All in all, not the worst for a senior. Still gonna only score a 6. I think there were some other senior diets that were a little bit better tailored, but not bad, not bad. I'm actually pretty impressed because most of the holistic foods, or foods that have touted themselves as holistic, have really not put the effort to get their guaranteed analysis that close. And so this is gonna wrap up as a 7, which I think is a really good option. And even some of those deductions I could absolutely live with. So if you came into my office, you know, and I looked at your pet and everything lined up, I probably would be pretty happy with this one. So I hope you guys enjoyed that and now understand how to kind of go through go through these type of things on your own, so that you can apply this to some of their other diets as well. They did provide me with their salmon recipe. Let's do that really quick. I forgot that they did that because this video has gotten really long already on us, but that's okay. Let's do that. We have time. We're here. They took the time to give us the information, so let's just do a quick run through now that we know where everything is located. The one that they told us was the salmon whitefish recipe. So let's pull that one up really quick. Let me just run through really quick and score this for you. 20-pound dog, 1 1/4 cups. They're going to get a point there. That one is better. They are suggesting a little bit better range there, so they're going to get a point there. It is also formulated and for maintenance, so they're going to get another point there, so they're up to 2 points. In the ingredient list, it is not grain-free and not raw, so we are up to 4 points going into the nutrient analysis, which we're going to pop over really quick to the email. And let's look through that. And so protein, again, is going to be slightly over. Same profile there, so they're not going to get a point there. We are going to be stuck at 4. Fat actually is a little bit over on this one, so we're still stuck at 4. Fiber, they're going to get a point, so we're at 5. 0.7 on the calcium, they're going to go up to 6. 0.7 on the phosphorus, they're going to go up to a 7. So as you can see, this is going to score the same as the chicken and rice, but for different reasons. So that's why it's important to look at the totality of the foods, not necessarily just the score. The score is a quick and dirty way to do it. But just like we don't want to necessarily look at the ingredient list as a quick and dirty way, I don't want you to look at the pet food scoring system the same way either. Let's look at things on their totality. If I had to pick between the two, I think the nutrient analysis was a little bit closer on the chicken, and I feel confident that I could calculate my pet's energy requirements and do those numbers myself. Now, if you don't feel like you should do that and you don't feel comfortable with math and you want one that is already kind of like appropriate on the bag, well then you may shy over to the salmon. And so that's my take on it. I hope you guys enjoyed. I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your week and weekend, and I'll hang out with you guys next time. Don't forget to like and subscribe before you go.